Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for sticking around. My name is Tony Ewell. I'm a first-year MBA student at the Robert H. Smith School of Business and also the incoming president of the Emerging Markets Association. We have several of our board members here today, and as one of the board members, I want to thank you all for being here today. It is my pleasure to introduce our final speaker, Miss Elana Fine. Elana Fine is the Managing Director of the Dingman Center for Entrepreneurship at the University of Maryland's Robert H. Smith School of Business. Elana's primary focus is leading the Dingman Center in support of its mission to build a community that discovers, equips, and connects and celebrates entrepreneurs. Key responsibilities include oversight of a student venture incubator, fearless founders, the Dingman Center Angels Investor Network, business competitions, and integration with Smith School entrepreneurship curriculum and research activities. Elana also develops and maintains a relationship with donors, board members, executives and residents, the Smith School community, and other campus and regional partners. Elana is also an adjunct faculty member with the Smith School's Management and Organization Department and part of the national teaching team for NSF's I-Core program. Elana started in investment banking at Bear Stearns, but started working with technology startups when she joined Revolution Partners, a boutique investment bank specializing in M&A and private capital advisory for software companies. She joined the company in its infancy and helped the team grow to 40 bankers on both coasts, assisting and leading transactions from $10 million to $200 million in deal value. Elana left upon the firm's sale to Morgan Keegan. Elana was recently named a Tech Titan by Washington Magazine, Power Women in Tech, and by Tech Biz Now, and 50 on Fire by In the Capital. She is also contributor to the Washington Post Capital Business. And with that, I'd like to introduce Ms. Elana Fine.
Thank you. I should just stop now. Let me see here. So obviously, I don't think I need to give any more of my background, but I will say that I've been at the Dingman Center for almost exactly 5 years. I think my anniversary is in a couple weeks in May. And it was that background that you just heard that really made me qualified for the job. I first started running the Dingman Center Angels Investor Network and was later promoted to my current role. But it's really the experience that I've had over the last 5 years working with hundreds of entrepreneurs that really has qualifies me to talk to you today about the connection between global business and global entrepreneurship and what we do at the Dingman Center. So when Rebecca asked me to just think about some of my observations about global entrepreneurship and what it means to practitioners and student entrepreneurs, well, I immediately thought, all right, well, that's easy because entrepreneurship is global. We know that, so what is there really to talk about? So I was thinking about Global Entrepreneurship Week. Is anyone familiar with Global Entrepreneurship Week? Okay, good. So Global Entrepreneurship Week is supported by the Kauffman Foundation. This year is just one example of how we celebrate innovators, startups all around the world. And this year, over 140 countries participated in Global Entrepreneurship Week in November. And you can see here just how this has grown over the last year and how other indicators of entrepreneurial activity across the globe have increased. And we know that a lot of this is driven by just need and necessity, just lack of other job prospects. And a lot of it is also grown by just innovation in various countries. And we got to know these numbers. We know that entrepreneurship is everywhere. This is just one example of one micro example of what's happening around the world. Okay? So, all right, check the box. Entrepreneurship is everywhere. And I know it's been we had a lot of conversations today about what that means and what's happening in different parts of the world. But what I was starting to think about is really how do we define global entrepreneurship, okay? And what does it mean to be a global entrepreneur? So we know what international business is, okay? We think about, all the companies that have started thinking globally. And you think, even some of the startup companies, as they get additional venture money and they start to grow, they think about, and we heard it from our panelists, what other markets they can go into. And they start to experience those things about how do I deal with regulations and language and culture and all those things. But that might be already after they've proven a product in their home market. And so I don't know, what I started thinking about is, really have we answered that question of what it means to be a global entrepreneur? And so I started thinking a little bit more about our students and whether they are global entrepreneurs and whether they're thinking, all of the students that come into the Dingman Center, are they thinking about being a global entrepreneurs, and do they understand what that means? And so a lot of them have, they've outsourced some of their production to Alibaba. We have a student who was actually showcasing on Wednesday at our Cupid's Cup business competition, who's created a product called Pride Shorts. And he has their tacky shorts with a big M on them, and he's gotten a bunch of fraternity kids to run around wearing Pride shorts. And he learned a lot about how to manufacture globally. He lost one shipment. He used a certain manufacturer who messed everything up, and he missed last spring, right as this time of year last spring, he didn't have his shorts, okay? But I don't know if he's a global entrepreneur exactly. And we have another student who has built a mobile app. And he built a mobile app he has a team of 30 developers in India that he's used. And he actually traveled over there last summer, and he has a great picture of him, I think he's 20 years old, with this whole team of his whole development team. And I started thinking about, really does that make them global entrepreneurs? And is global entrepreneurship really more about identifying opportunities to really create additional value based on our expertise as an entrepreneur in a different country? I think that that's really different, and I don't know if we've really yet identified one of our greatest exports as our entrepreneurs. We think about our exports as our products and our services that we think are the best and that we can sell other places, and we can tweak them, and we can better understand how to market them and what channels we can use. But I think we're forgetting that one of our best exports is our entrepreneurs. And we think about all the problems that the world has to solve. And right now, and I'm learning more, more and more about different organizations as we kind of think, and I'll talk a little bit more about the things that the Dingman Center does abroad. But a lot of this problem solving now is left to a lot of NGOs, okay? And they've been very, very effective in solving water, food, shelter, some healthcare problems. But I don't think it has to be just that way. I think we can export more than just funding to these organizations. Because I think our global entrepreneurs can really solve these world problems by creating unique business models that really change the way we act, the way we think, and the way that we solve these problems and spend our money. But right as I was putting my thoughts down for this talk today, I opened up the Washington Post. I saw this was 2 weeks ago in the Washington Post. I was probably looking for my Business RX column that somebody had mentioned. And right next to our column, the Smith's Weekly column, was an article about this local company called Rebel Desk. Ryan, I was going to give you as an example, but you just sat down. Ryan, who has been standing in the back and loves to stand, would be a great customer for this company. They sell stand-up desks and treadmills for people who don't like to sit down. And they thought that this was and the article talks about how they thought that there was a lot of opportunity abroad. And they were really, really excited, but they just found as a young company, it was too costly for them to get through all the regulations, the red tape, the time that they would need to figure out who the right partners are, and they kind of gave up. And it might be, and it said they plan to do it later, and they were highlighting all the things the U.S. government is trying to do in the article to really solve this problem that I'm kind of presenting to you, is that have we really given a skill set and a mindset to be able to say early on as an entrepreneur, can you take a product to in a global market, or can you use your expertise to solve a market in a global problem? But it's just really hard. And how this relates to me and my role in the Dingman Center is because our job is to figure out how to do the following things. Our mission is to discover, equip, connect, and celebrate entrepreneurs. And I was trying to think about how can we do these 4 things to discover, equip, and connect, and celebrate more global entrepreneurs. So in addition to all the products and services that we are exporting, we're also exporting our entrepreneurial expertise. What has made the United States so great has been our ability to be entrepreneurial. And I think that's something that there's a real opportunity for as we think of ourselves as educators and mentors, is how to change that mindset. And so I just want to give a couple examples of what the Smith School is doing, really to conclude this in a way to have you thinking about what are the things that you can do in your organizations and your companies to help some of your younger employees and students have become more global entrepreneurs. So one example is our Adventure Challenge China global course. This is the main part of this course is a business model competition at Peking University in Beijing. And I won't go into all the details, but the students are on multinational teams, and they present in front of a crowd at Peking University. And the last competition, I noticed that there was a lot of people in the crowd that kind of had just showed up just for the finals. And usually we had only had the participating teams. And so I asked a couple people, how did they hear about it? It's not something they really promote around the school. It's a little bit more of an intimate competition. And they said they heard there were U.S. students had come to talk about potential ideas for new businesses to solve China's problems. They were just so curious to hear what our ideas are to solve their problems. And I thought that was really interesting, and what a great experience for our students to have been on the ground, to talk to potential customers, and not just saying, hey, we have this great widget in the United States, I want to bring it over, but what are the real ways that I can use some resources here in China to help solve some of the problems. So that's one example. Another project is actually a project that Rebecca Bellinger and I had worked together on, a project with an organization in Israel called the Arava Institute. And this is a project where we brought together a team of University of Maryland law students, public health students, and business students to study the feasibility of using gray water for crops and irrigation. And so these students traveled across Israel and Jordan to see samples of systems that have been put in place to reuse water. But most of these have been funded, like I said, with NGOs, with really through gifts, donations, through other nonprofits, but they have yet to really find a sustainable business model that can create enterprises around these gray water systems. And so that's why they wanted our business students to come and say, what are comparable business models that you can think about and bring over to us that we just don't know. We don't even know how to emulate. And so I'm waiting to hear the results of their recommendations. But the students, really, it's just amazing how they understand by going and being abroad and talking to the local organizations and talking to the people there to understand how different these problems are than the problems obviously here. Another example I want to talk about is the Maryland Social Entrepreneurship Corps, Entrepreneur Corps. This is a program that our Center for Social Value Creation has been working with our University of Maryland Study Abroad office to offer programs on location for undergraduate students in Nicaragua and the Dominican Republic to help to help local entrepreneurs with their business. And they're there on the ground for 8 weeks, understanding the businesses, applying the business skills that they've learned to these startups. And I have not had the opportunity to go, but in talking to Sarah Harold, who's in the audience, just the exposure the students have with sitting with someone who has a very small business and showing them on like a scrap piece of paper how to line up their debits and credits is just an amazing opportunity for them to see entrepreneurship in another country. And I was just thinking about kind of some of the things that our panelists mentioned about not knowing what things you might need to do to go into the market into Brazil, how ahead these students are going to be when they decide that they want to start a business that solves a problem in a country that's not their own. And so I'll leave you with those few examples and really just wanted to end the day to say, what more can we do so that we are exporting more global entrepreneurs? Because I just think there's so much more we can be doing, and we have a next generation of students who think of themselves very much as global citizens and are very dedicated to solving those global problems. But it's all of our jobs to make sure that they have the skill sets to do it, so they don't, because not everybody will fail 4 times and start again. We want to make sure they only have to fail 1 or 2 times. So that's just a kind of overview of what we do, and hopefully it kind of leaves you thinking about what else we can be doing. So thank you so much, Rebecca. I know I tried to be brief, so I'll leave it at that. Does anyone have any questions on the Dingman Center or what I talked about here?
I have one question.
Sure.
So the students you deal with, what is the biggest misconception about entrepreneurship or about working overseas that they bring there?
What is the biggest misconception? I think the biggest misconception is that they can't do it. I think the misconception is just that it's so, well, I don't think it's a misconception, it's more that they don't, it seems so unachievable to most of them.
Then the process at the center makes them believe it.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about some of the students we mentioned here, I'm the one that I'm closest to is our China business model competition. And when we send students out and we say, while you're in China, you have to go talk to potential customers, you need to understand what their problems are. You just can't come in and have this business idea without talking to anyone who would be a potential customer. My hope is that the next time when they try to do it for a business that they intend to start, most of these are just kind of more simulations, that they would feel more comfortable doing that or understand, before it's actually their business with their money on the line, they understand the right way to write an email or the right way to sit there, and when you're supposed to, if the person leading the Chinese banquet drinks, you drink, learning some of those things early. Our business students don't seem to have a problem with that, but.
Thanks. I hate to hog the microphone, but I'm in the MSIS program, and the population of students that we have are so diverse and so globally conscious, but they're also high-value people coming out of this program, and they're going to get gobbled up by the big consulting firms, and there's big money out there, thank goodness, coming out of the program. But what are your thoughts on what the Dingman Center can do to kind of cultivate kind of an entrepreneurial mindset for some of these young people to be thinking about going into business for themselves or starting something in their own countries versus going to Ernst & Young or one of the big consulting firms?
Yeah, that's a good question. And one of the hardest things for us, particularly with that program, is that we only have you for a year. And so what are the things, and you're just so very focused. But I think when I talk about one of the most important things that we do is celebrate our entrepreneurs. So whether it might not be that they're the person who's coming and putting a pitch together or working in our Fearless Founders incubator, that it's just them coming to a pitch competition to see young people getting up there, pitching an idea, being grilled by a panel of judges. Like, that's certainly a great start. We also have, encourage our MBA students, and I would say the same thing for MS, is do a 10-week internship at a startup, or even work on a small consulting project where a startup needs you to think through information systems, or think through their accounting, or think through their finance, where we have these very, you're there for a specific skill set, but if you probably get a lot more out of it to apply that through a project or an internship, to apply that in a startup environment where what you do has a significant impact than you might have when you're at Deloitte. So just looking for any sort of, what we do for our students is we say, look, we have a lot of students who are going to go really deep into entrepreneurship, particularly in the undergraduate population, but that doesn't mean that you're excluded from it. So just find a way to get a little taste, a little bit of exposure, go to events, try to do an elevator pitch competition, a venture capital competition, anything just to be exposed to it.
Okay. So it's more a comment, not a question, but in your definition of global entrepreneur, you were looking more at the demand side. There are problems out there, global problems, and we need to solve. But I want to maybe look at the other side, that the way you organize. For example, there are companies that have organized themselves by putting together knowledge bases from different places. A biotech company in China that does research in UK, clinical trials. No, biotech, they're headquartered in Japan, research in UK, clinical trials in China, market development in US, and that was part of their original model. So this idea that there maybe are solutions out there for even local problems, and putting together knowledge from different countries is also global entrepreneurship in my sense. So I'm trying to bring also, the other side is also maybe an important side, that on the supply side, that people usually they tend to disregard, and not, they tend to look only for local solutions. Oh, I have a solution for,
right.
But if you are able to scout the world and find solutions even for local problems, that's another form of global entrepreneurship that can add a lot of value as well. So
that's a great point, Paulo, because one of the things, one of the researchers at UVA who does a lot in effectuation theory and effective entrepreneurial leaders, she has this theory, I don't know if you're familiar, of the crazy quilt. Have you ever heard it? So basically it talks about how entrepreneurs, the real successful entrepreneurs, have been able to very uniquely create a crazy quilt of their network that you wouldn't understand, that entrepreneurs are very successful, like I sit in this room, that I would know, the best way to use the person from this table, this table, this table, this table, this table to build my business. And when you look at successful entrepreneurs, how did they think to hire that person? Or why did they think to use that expertise? I think that's a great point, is that how can we make sure that that crazy quilt or whatever we're creating, maybe not of people, but of our resources and our businesses, shouldn't just include where you're looking now. You can really use, in a much more accessible way, you can use a lot of resources from around the world. Is that what you're saying? I think that's a great point. And then training entrepreneurs to kind of think that way is a whole other, you're right, it's a whole other side of it. I will say that's where some of my students, I give them a lot of credit. I shouldn't at all belittle the fact that the students who are thinking about, using resources in other countries, but it's much broader than that, for sure. Any other questions? Well, great.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.